old Exe Bridge area of Exeter. So Exe Bridges is right behind me with all the lovely busy traffic. So I've been here a few times before, and this is a really good, nice green space for some of the more unusual trees. So we're going to have a short walk and talk, very generalised because I haven't got a great deal of time. So I actually came here today, and just behind this birch tree here I was studying some alder trees. This is a really good place for different types of alder, so we're going to go through that as well. That's actually a really nice little spot because outside of this green space it's really busy, so you can actually see behind this lovely graceful birch tree all the traffic. And unfortunately behind me, Exe Bridges, and I won't bother filming that because it's just tarmac and cars, there's plenty of that around. It gets really busy. It's a bit of a hot spot in Exeter for traffic. But anyway, we're here to talk about the fantastic trees and the green space in front of me. So we can see it in front, lovely silver birch tree, and when we have a nice bit of wind, they really are pretty trees. Now it was raining earlier, but the weather's improved dramatically, and you can actually see in front of me, this is the old Exe Bridge. So there's quite a bit of history here. So we're going to have a closer look at our lovely trees. You can see a friendly little jackdaw down there, and there's also a magpie in the distance as well. Right, so this is our lovely silver birch tree, and very quickly these lovely drooping leaves, you can actually see catkins maturing. So for birch trees, their flowering is monoecious, which means you have the male and female flowers on the same part of the tree but different parts. What we're seeing here is the maturing female catkins. As the male catkins, they flowered earlier and they're wind pollinated, so their job's been done. They've released the pollen into the wind, they're shed to the ground. You might be able to see some of the leftovers. But like I say, this is one of several birch trees on here, and you've got the lovely white iconic bark of birch. So these trees you can see why they're widely planted, because they're just so graceful. You know, lovely white bark, and when you're looking up at the canopy, oops, lovely, isn't it? Look at that. So these are the two silver birch trees here, and now we're going to start to go further down. The tree in front here is a Norway Maple, and it's got that really, I love this distinct bark, and it's always covered in lichen. And you'll be able to have a look at the leaves in a minute. So Norway Maple at this time of the year has pretty much flowered, and those flowers are beginning to turn into samaras, which are like the little helicopters that we know and love. But like I say, this is a Norway Maple. Look at that, stunning tree. And we can actually have a look at our young Norway Maple leaves. Oh, there's always a siren. Probably can't hear me now. It's a fire engine. So you can just about see behind the leaves. Now the wind is making it a little bit more tricky. There are some young samaras there. Look at that. So the flowers have, like I say, they finished. Now they're turning into these lovely samaras, which we all know and love as helicopters. And then, as I said, after summer, sort of autumn, they'll be released and they'll get blown around. So lovely tree. That's our Norway Maple, and we have another graceful silver birch tree in front, and this tiny small tree right in front is actually a alder, and that's a common alder. So we'll be having a look at that a bit later if we can manage the time. I hope you can hear me. As I said, we've got sirens and we've got all the busy traffic that is Exe Bridges. So this fantastic tree here is a common ash, and we'll have a closer look at our lovely ash tree. Now ash is a little bit different than Norway Maple, because what we tend to find with ash trees is they're usually either all male or all female. Now at this time of the year now, like I say, the leaves are developing nicely. We can see the remnants of last year's. So here we go, look, they're the samaras. So basically the female flowers that are developed into these lovely winged papery. They're not quite like helicopters, so these are known as keys, because they look like a bunch of hanging keys. So what we'll also look at is, you see that sort of brown blobby bit? They were male flowers, and there's a type of gall that only attacks the male flowers. So in this instance, this tree is, from what I can gather, mostly female, but there are evidence of male flowers. So that, like I said, that's not uncommon for ash, but usually it's male or female. But as I said, I've seen it before, and there's evidence there. And there are lovely leaves. It wouldn't be complete without some scream kids in the background with it. So that's our lovely ash tree, which now, let's see the bark. Oh, look at all that wildlife. Look at it. All those woodlice. Fantastic. All that wildlife. We'll have a closer look at the canopy of the tree now. Now, the lighting might be a bit tricky, but look at all that moss and lichen. So much life on this tree. Fantastic. We're going to move on. So with ash trees, as I said, they're dioecious in nature. So typically male or female, but as I said, the evidence here is mostly female, but there are evidence of male flowers from last year. And I just love seeing all that wildlife, all the little critters. Fantastic. So what we'll do now, we're going to head back down, because if we go up, we're going to leave this green space, and then we're going to sort of like walk back down here and then talk about these other trees. Brilliant. Now this is a really cool tree. So this is a Lucombe oak, cross between Turkey and cork oak, and is a special tree to Exeter because the person who discovered the natural cross, William Lucombe, then the tree was actually named after him. So you can see why it's corky, because the cross between cork and Turkey oak. And again, you can see all that lovely lichen and moss. And at this time of the year, we have flowers. So these are the male flowers. Bit tricky to see the female flowers. They are really, really small. I mean, you can actually see on all of the branches and twigs here. It's a bit more difficult, but where you've got the light, you can actually see the male catkins dangling. And they're all wind pollinated. Now what's caught my eye, if I can just get that, is this fantastic structure. Look at that. So that's again a type of gall, which is on most oaks, they normally are impacted by galls. Tiny wasps that very cleverly basically use the tree, and it's amazing really. They can change the structure of like a bud or a leaf, and then inside those tiny little, in this case these small green blobs, will be baby wasps in there. But I just wanted to show you that because that's only a tiny part of the tree. So you can see, just again, oak trees do typically have a high amount of biodiversity. And there are male flowers, and what's even better is you can just about see that female flower. See that pinkish one at the top? So that's a female flower which you can just about see. That will eventually then mature into an acorn, which with Lucombe oak, the acorns have slightly mossy cups. So anyway, that's our lovely Lucombe oak. Like I say, cross between a turkey and cork oak. And we'll have a quick look at the canopy. This tree can't quite make up its mind because its parents, although both oak trees, one is a evergreen oak, which is cork, and then the turkey oak is deciduous. So we actually have, because it's a cross between the two, this is a semi-evergreen. So you can actually see, you know, it's not completely bare and it's not completely covered. So more often than not, I do find leaves all throughout the year, but it just depends on, you know, climate change and general weather conditions. But yeah, I typically find there's leaves throughout the year. So that tree in front there, the Norway Maple, another one, beautiful. That one looks like it's a bit further on than the other one. So now we need to sort of get a wiggle on. There's also another Lucombe oak, which is that one there. So that's good that we've got two of our sort of very localised oak trees. And then we've got a pair of beautiful birch trees. Now, I haven't quite determined exactly what type of cultivar these are, but I believe they're a type of Himalayan birch. They're not silver birch, and they're not downy either. Beautiful though. Again, you've got that iconic, striking white bark. And I hope to be able to get a solid idea on these. So this one's an interesting one that's in front. Now, it's covered in this lovely yellow lichen, but underneath all of this is actually quite a relatively smooth grey bark, which most people will think, right, that's going to be a beech tree, but actually this is a type of sorbus. This is a Swedish white beam. These are cool trees. They've got very distinct leaves. So we'll have a quick look at the canopy. Beautiful. It's nice to see the sun coming out, and then we'll have a quick look at the leaves. If I can grab carefully, there we go, that's perfect. So white beam is native to the UK. The Swedish white beam isn't. Very similar trees. I mean, the flowers are pretty much the same. The key difference between Swedish white beam and white beam is, as you can see here with Swedish white beam, the leaves have those indents, whereas with white beam it's just a very sort of simple leaf, but they're lovely trees. And I say, when these flowers develop, you've got these lovely creamy white flowers which insects love. So now we're going to quickly go to the trees that I've been studying a bit today, and that's alder trees. Now, we mentioned the common alder at the start. So common alder is native to the UK, typically by water sources like rivers, streams, brooks, that sort of thing. But these are slightly different, and there's actually four here, sorry. So this one in front here is a one-leaved alder. That's also a one-leaved alder. Well, that's a grey alder, and then that beauty over there is an Italian alder. So quickly setting it up, all of these alder trees, they will be very similar with regards to their flowers and cones. So they're all monoecious, so male and female flowers, same tree, different parts, but flowering season's finished for alders really now. It's the male flowers, catkins, have shed their pollen, dropped to the ground, and then the young female flowers and then developing into the cones that we typically see. Now, if I can get a closer look, you can see all these cool little cones. So they're the mature female cones. And this is what's cool about this alder, is that this is, like I say, a one-leaf alder, whereas common alder is like racket shaped. A little cool little bug there. And what we want to do is try and find, there we are, we didn't have to look hard. So the young female cones, if I can just get that to focus, there we go, just about. So they're the young female cones, which, like I say, they'll then mature into these, if I can actually get one, very cool wooden structures which contain lots of seeds and then dispersed by wind and rain. So as I said, that's one-leaved alder. Has really cool bark as well. And we're now going to have a quick look at the grey alder, so you can see a clear difference between bark. So if you just sort of memorise this, and have a quick look at the canopy. Lovely, lovely canopy. So that's one-leaved, and then we're going to go straight to the grey alder, which is here. I mean, straight away you can see there's a difference in the bark. You can still see those characteristic signs of an alder, but it's a lot smoother. And here's some suckers of grey alder. So just doing a comparison, that's grey alder right in front of me. Lovely. You can see some of the mature female cones there. And then this tree is, like I say a few minutes ago, is another one-leaved alder, which you can see the bark isn't quite as smooth, but you've still got that characteristic of alder. You can see all the moss and lichen and that lovely canopy. So what we want to just compare is the leaves of one-leaf alder, which hopefully you can just about see, and you can see the young female flowers there, which then mature into these. This is one-leaved alder, and then we only have to go just here, so very lucky really that we then have our grey alder, and you can clearly see a difference in the leaves, but again still an alder, just a different type. Now there are flowers there, but I don't think I can actually get to them. You can just about see on the edges of the twigs. So there are female flowers. I'm just not tall enough to get to them, I don't think. Oh no, I'm lucky. There's some here. You can just about see. Again, they'll develop into those woody cones, which you can see there's a few up there. So we've covered one-leaved alder, grey alder. Now we're going to look at Italian alder. So we're really lucky that this space has got 4 types of alder right next to each other. Now Italian alder gets quite tall. So of all the alders I've seen, it's the tallest. And the bark on Italian alder really strikes out. Now this is a really good specimen. But firstly we want to do is the leaves. I mean, you can see again they look so different, almost heart-shaped. But again, you've got female flowers, young ones, and you've got the mature female cones. Now, what's interesting to note, out of the major alder species that I've discovered, Italian Alder has the biggest cones, so if you're like doing any crafts or anything, you really want to try and find an Italian Alder, because these are brilliant for like crafts and bits and pieces. And apparently, what I've learned online is that people who keep fish in aquariums, sometimes they'll put alder cones into the water because it helps soak up some of the toxins. Again, don't know how accurate that is, but just some information. Oh, look at that. Oh, there's a big nursery web spider there. Oh, he's fast. Missed that. Didn't quite. Anyway, so our Italian Alder, and this is a reasonably sized tree, although it's probably the tallest tree here. Oh, noisy traffic, but that lovely bark. And then my favourite part is always looking up at the canopy. Fantastic. So, like I say, we're so lucky. We've got the 4 types of alder: common, grey, one-leaved, and then the Italian alder we've just looked at. And all of them have the same characteristic, that they're monoecious, so male and female flowers on the same tree but different parts. And this small tree is actually one of my favourites. It's beech. I really love beech trees. They've got these lovely wavy leaves, and when they're young they're really soft. And again, not that I've done this, but in some countries they will actually, young beech leaves are like washed and then actually used in a salad, so that the young leaves are palatable and edible. And also in some countries, because the young leaves are so soft, they use them in stuffing in pillows. And they've got really cool fly of some type. Now, beech is cool because, again, native species, so these are really important. But even a small tree like this, you can see how dense the canopy is, and that's a characteristic of beech trees. And you can clearly see the alternate arrangements. Now, you can't really see the buds because they're all open for the leaves, but they're normally sort of pointed and torpedo shaped. But beech trees are brilliant because, again, native, so gives us a lot of value in our country. But there's not many trees that have really dense canopies, and what that means is that there's only certain types of plants that can survive underneath a beech canopy because not much light can get through. And I really love beech trees. Now, this fantastic beech tree, I don't believe quite mature enough for flowers yet, because at this time of the year with beech, just like with oak, you would see flowers, and I'm not seeing any evidence of flowers yet. So it's probably just a little bit too young. But with beech trees, you would see, oh, little ladybird there. You would see male and female flowers on the same tree but different parts, and then the male flowers are these really cool dangling catkins, and the female flowers are these upright structures which then turn into what we refer to as beech mast. Now, the wind's picking up, but if anything that just makes the tree more attractive. Now we're going to move to over here where we've got Lombardi Poplar now. Now, they're not native to this country, and they used to be planted in farmland as a windbreak. Very tall trees. Like I say, they grow pretty much upright, very tall and very fast because of the type of tree they are, and the family, essentially part of the willow family. And these provide a lot of food value for various caterpillars and other leaf-eating insects. Most Lombardi poplars in the UK are all male, because when they were brought over, they were male and then cloned from there. So the catkins you'll probably find when they do flower will be these lovely deep red catkins that then spread the male pollen. So I'll be honest, if you come across a Lombardi poplar in this country, in the UK, there's a good chance it's going to be male. So we'll go underneath the canopy now, have a proper look at Lombardi Poplar. Really, really nice sight to see. Not the best choice of tree if you're planting near any sort of development, because the roots are invasive, but in a green space like here, that isn't really a problem. But these are fantastic trees, and we've got another birch tree here with that sort of, you can just about see it, the iconic white, quite a small one. As I said, we've got 3 or 4 of the birch trees behind me, which we'll sort of go through, and then you can see another one just there. And here's another Lombardi Poplar. The other thing with Lombardi Poplars, they have a habit of, again, in this country they're not really going to spread by sea because we haven't really got any female trees to help with the pollination process. But what they do, this is a very common sight of poplars, particularly Lombardi, is they'll send up these suckers from, because the parent trees are here, or male trees, but like I say, you'll find actually that these will be spreading all around here. So you can see some more there. Oh, brilliant, thank you. And the sad part is though, is that because this grass gets mowed quite frequently, there's a good chance these lovely little saplings are going to get taken down. But like I say, luckily Lombardi poplars here are left to their own devices, because quite often they'll get topped, which is a real shame really, because I think they're stunning trees. Now we've pretty much covered our short talk about the trees here. There's one last tree I just want to point out. Now it's starting to rain. It's rowan, this lovely tree in front here. So the scientific name is Sorbus acupurea. Again, don't get caught up on the scientific names. Rowan is its common name. Lovely tree. So it is native to the UK, but it's more native to the sort of like uplands really, Scotland. Now unfortunately rowan trees don't seem to be doing too well in the UK. Sort of feedback I've had is that because of the sort of like more dry weather we're having, although today's not the best example of that, but rowans don't do so great in like dry extended weather, which makes sense because, as I said, they're more sort of like naturalised up north. But yeah, rowan tree, lovely. So here we go, look at that typical leaf structure, and then you've got these lovely creamy white flowers which are insect pollinated, which then will turn into, you can see last year's berries actually, little, usually red, but you can get orange as well, which aren't really edible, but if you go through a very long process of carefully selecting them and bletting them, basically freezing them, and as long as you can remove the particular type of acid out of them, you can use them for jams and jellies. But basically rowan trees are more planted for their beauty. They're not, as I said, there's better trees to use for making jams and jellies than a rowan. So again, that's our one-leaved alder, and then we're going to sort of like walk and talk again. Again, that's our grey alder. Again, we've got our lovely birch tree there, and then just behind you can see that another Lucombe oak, and then there's another Lucombe oak. So alders and oaks, and actually, to be fair, we have got a lot of birch trees here as well. You can see And it's lovely how you can see the distinct types of birch, because yes, they're silver birch, but there'll be different cultivars which dictate the length of their twigs, their branches, the size of the leaves, whether, you know, their flower arrangement, little things like that. So this is a bit of a tricky one because you've got the Norway Maple directly in front, and then behind you've got two silver birches. So that's pretty much this lovely little green space, which I quite often visit because there's such a nice variety of trees. Right, well I better go because it's now raining and it's going to get worse. So I hope you found this informative and useful. As I said, I will try and do more of these little walk and talks where I can.